Welcome to No Apologies on Beck, where we are unafraid to speak the truth. I am your host, Rick Becker. We are without co-host tonight and tomorrow night yet, but we will have our co-host back in the chair in no time. So we're batching it, we're hanging out, and we're going to be talking about inflation to start off with. So let's hit it right off the bat. Oh, by the way, we are going to have a great guest, Josh Gallion. He's been with us before. Josh and I are going to be talking about all sorts of things interesting and regarding the state of North Dakota. We also are going to be hitting an executive order that I find interesting as well. We're going to go into details in that. But to start off, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about inflation. So let's pull up that first graphic. TheCenterSquare.com is a very interesting website, and I recommend it, TheCenterSquare.com. They come out with a lot of great stories. This story is new federal data signal more trouble for the U.S. economy. What they say in there is that the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported that prices for consumer goods have risen significantly in the past year, and that it's putting a strain on Americans' budgets and worrying experts. So you've got a situation which Biden is dealing with some criticism regarding his significant tax increases that he's proposing, significant spending increases. We've talked about COVID and the most recent $1.9 trillion, and we're looking at, he has an infrastructure bill that is only partially actually for infrastructure, but for a lot of favored, politically motivated spending as well. That is on the order, I believe, of $2.25 trillion. So tons of spending. All of this in relation to what may very well be the very start of some significant inflation. There are a few areas here in this article I'd like to go over with you. They indicate that over the last 12 months, the CPI, or the items indexed, rose 4.2%. That's the largest 12-month increase since September of 2008. I mean, that's significant, very significant. A Rasmussen poll indicated that Americans are worried about inflation. If you watch this show, you know I'm worried about it. 76% of American adults are at least somewhat concerned. 45%, nearly half of American adults, are very concerned, and with good reason. We look at the job numbers. We talked about that just last night, I believe. You know, because of government intervention, what we have is dragging out of a recovery from COVID. Of course, government-induced problems from COVID, but then government-induced slowing of the recovery from the fallout from COVID. Republicans are starting to step up to the plate, and they're starting to criticize this spending and these types of job numbers, and now in the last 24 hours, these inflation numbers are really bringing to the forefront the concerns. So what we've been talking about as far as will either party ever regain their fiscal hawkishness, meaning wanting to make sure we're not spending so much, maybe these types of numbers will bring Republicans back to the table to talk about this. Biden recently said this: because of the American Rescue Plan, that's his $2.25 trillion infrastructure plan, because of that plan, he says, forecasters are projecting we'll see the fastest economic growth in nearly 40 years in the months to come. He said that on Monday, just 2 days ago. Now, that was just before these inflation numbers came out, so I don't know. I think he's on very thin ice talking like that. Things will play out. Let's pull up the next graphic. This is a very good article from CNBC. And it says inflation speeds up in April as consumer prices leap 4.2%, again, fastest since 2008. They were looking for an increase of 3.6%. Now, that may not seem like a dramatic increase, the 4.2 from the 3.6, but in terms of the economic impact, it is very, very significant. The Federal Reserve, which is the central bank, they are thinking that this is temporary. We've talked to you about how they used the term transitory inflation. In fact, I think what they used was transitory hyperinflation, and they believe that this is transitory in nature as well. They noticed that, again, fastest increase in 12 years. Now, they do account for some of this being from a lowered baseline, a falsely lowered baseline because of the COVID situation early last year. Nevertheless, there's a big question of, okay, how much is this simple baseline? Is this truly transitory like the Fed is saying, or is this a sign of things to come? To put that number 3.6 to 4.2 in a different context, the month-to-month gain was 0.8%, but they were expecting it to be 0.2%. So the month-to-month was 4 times higher. And so that starts to really put some meat on those numbers. The monthly gain in core inflation, the largest that we've seen since 1981. So very, very big numbers. But again, the Federal Reserve are saying no. Now, the question I have is it because there truly are solid metrics to say we don't need to deal with this? And what I mean by dealing with it, the Federal Reserve, one of the only weapons they have to deal with inflation is to cause interest rates to increase. Now, are they saying this is nothing to worry about because it's truly nothing to worry about? Or are they saying it's nothing to worry about because they don't want to raise interest rates? We've talked before about what that means when you have a nation that's so far in debt as we are. Once interest rates start climbing, things start looking really bad, and we have a greater percentage of our tax dollars that are going to nothing more than trying to pay the interest on our debt. Not just the debt, but the interest on our debt, and that is pretty significant. The Federal Reserve typically likes to see about a 2% inflation rate. They say that that's healthy. But again, where we're at now is 3.6. Now, what does that mean? I mean, so many things. It weakens the dollar. It weakens your purchasing power. But another way of looking at it is really it's a tax on your savings. If you think about your IRA or your 401k, and you say, hey, it's awesome, it's growing at 6% per year. But if inflation is 4% per year, then really all you've made is 2%. They have taxed all of those earnings away. Now, that doesn't even take into consideration capital gains if it's not for an actual retirement account, if it's an investment account. But they are taxing by whatever means you are trying to invest your money and trying to get ahead a little bit. Inflation is a covert tax on what should have been your realized earnings. And so that's another reason that inflation is so significant to the average citizen. What else does it mean? Well, gosh, if you want to do just about anything, it makes it more expensive. Economists say that wages are sticky. What they mean by sticky is that they don't easily change, or they don't quickly change. So we have, say, for right now over the last 12 months, 3.6% increase. But did our wages rise, especially in this last month? Did they rise? No, of course not. And if we have another, say, 4% and another 5% inflation over the next couple of years, are we going to see our payroll, our pay increased by that 10%? Probably not. It's very slow to rise. So that means that our purchasing power, not only in actual dollars, but in future earned dollars, is decreased. If you look at lumber prices increased 124% in 2021. Copper increased 36%. So if you want to go out and build something, you want to build a house, you want to build a business, whatever it might be, so expensive to do that. And along with so many of the other things that we're seeing from the federal government or government in general, increased inflation puts a huge, huge damper on the economy, slows things down tremendously, horrible for our standard of living, and certainly does not bode well for the future when you have, looking at the future, all of the dollars that were printed, and somehow those dollars have to be brought back in, and as they're brought back in, I mean, there's just more and more upward pressure on inflation, and yet there's such a restriction that the Fed does not want to try and curb that by increasing interest rates. So where does this go from here? I wish I knew, but the reason I'm bringing it up is because it concerns each and every one of us, and we're going to have to keep tabs on it. They're saying that it's nothing to be worried about, that it's transitory, it's related to a low baseline from last year. Maybe they're right. However, maybe this is just the first step of many, many steps to come over the next year to 2 years. So we'll see. So enough about inflation. Next up, we're going to be talking with Josh Gallion, talking about more things with regarding money and debt and taxing with regard to the state of North Dakota. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
When you can't find answers to your recurring health challenges, it can feel like your health and your future are being held hostage. The Wellness Way is a network of health restoration clinics that think and act differently to solve the health challenges others can't. Here, we disrupt the standard approach to care through a combination of testing, individual plans, and one-on-one guidance, putting your health and your future where they belong, in your own hands.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York-style pizza. We also feature gyros, with the region's only gyro meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go, we deliver for you.
Pack the house in honor of North Dakota's heroes with Bucks Football Saturday, May 15th, as the Bucks go to battle against the Green Bay Blizzard. Help us honor Gold Star families, wounded warriors, and veterans alike. All veterans and family general admission tickets are free with military ID. Call 701-595-0771 for tickets and more information.
All right, we're back. It's No Apologies on Beck. And I have with us our state auditor, Josh Gallion. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
And I've got you for 3 whole segments.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We are going to learn everything about money and state government.
Oh, well, I don't know if 3 segments will do that.
There will be no questions left for you, unanswered for you. All right, so Josh, there's we're going to hit a few segments. One of the things that we're going to talk about in the beginning here is spending. And of course, I've been harping on that for 9 years now, since I got in 2013. And you know, wow, it's right in my face, right against, I've been against the headwind the whole time. Our spending has truly increased, hasn't it?
Significantly. As you look over the last 20 years, we have seen a tremendous growth in the budget. And in the auditor's office, we do look at a lot of that information. Primarily, a lot of the information we looked at and why we have some of this compiled right now is because we were interested to see how the growth in our government over the last 20 years has had an impact on our staff. As we've looked at our staff in the auditor's office, we've remained fairly constant over that 20-year period, yet we've seen, I think it's upwards of about a 230% growth in our state budget. And so that increase in spending is additional transactions to test, it's additional programs to look at. It increases our workload. And so when you increase the workload but have the same staff, it really limits our ability to have better coverage, better reviews of government.
So you're saying that the state government has grown more than doubled. It's grown 230%. and your workload presumably would have increased proportionately to that. But your office has not grown.
No. In fact,
great significance.
I think in that 2003, 2004 timeframe, that's how far back I looked, we had about 55 full-time employees in the office. And today, right now, we're just under 60 at 58.
Wow.
So we've grown by 3 people. And back in, I think in 2016, 17, we actually received 6 additional employees, but the legislature added an entire new audit function to the organization. So if you remove those 4 or 6 today, we actually have fewer auditors than we did in 2003.
That is crazy. Well, and the thing that as you know, I am very much in favor of reducing agency budgets all over the place because most of them have exploded. But the agency, which has the responsibility, your agency, which has the responsibility to make sure that everything is proper, spending is proper, there's not the, that would be the one that we want to say we don't want to skimp on. That's, it's ironic to me that that's the one that hasn't been growing. I think the Treasurer's office also has not really been growing much.
They've been relatively the same as well.
Yeah. So that's a bit ironic. And so, but yeah, spending has increased dramatically. You have a slide. Let's pull that slide up and you can talk about that.
The team put together some information here. And so just to kind of put it in perspective, because a lot of times people will talk about the growth in population. And yes, North Dakota has seen a wonderful growth in population. But as you look at this chart, from left to right, you see that's the current budget. And we're pushing over $16 billion with what was recently appropriated. Well, that equates to nearly $11,000 of spending per capita, per person. And as you work from this graph from left to right, you see back to 2003, 2004, when our budget was right around, I believe, $5 billion. Well, that spending equated to about $3,900 per capita. And so when you include that population number in there and compared to the growth of our budget, we're looking at a 23% growth in population, but probably closer to a 230% growth in our spending.
That's crazy.
And
that is
yes.
crazy. So yeah, people will frequently say that, well, yeah, we're spending more, but we have a lot more people. But you're showing in this slide very clearly, when we say per capita, it means how much for every person in North Dakota. So the increase in the slide we just showed is very specifically accounting for all of the new people that have come. So 2.5 times as much, roughly, we are spending for every man, woman, and child in the state. And sometimes people will say, well, but there's inflation. Yes. And for the last, you pointed during the break, for the last 20 years, it hasn't been over 3% up until now. Right now,
about 1 to 3% has usually been our inflationary growth, and
yeah.
in the early 2000s, the budgets were growing 4 or 5% per year.
Yep.
So it was just staying right ahead of inflation. But yeah, you can definitely tell when North Dakota oil money hit, that entire trend line from the those early 2000s into 2010. I mean, it just jumped.
Yep.
It moved the whole
conservatism
line up.
Just disappeared. So I don't know. There's like. Oil money is kryptonite to conservatism. It just kills it. Just kills it. But the the inflation we talked about, the 2%, I mean, even at 3% for 10 years would be about a 38% increase. So 2% would be maybe more like a 25% increase. And, or maybe less, 24. So we are looking at inflation and we're looking at increased number of people in the state. Doesn't even come close to explaining the increases. There is only one explanation, and that is that we were endowed with a crazy amount of new revenue from oil. Agreed?
I think the numbers show that.
It's pretty obvious. So what do you I mean, at this point, the slope can't continue increasing because it can now revert to the slope it used to be before we got the money, right? Because we're not going to have continued rate of increase of oil revenue. We're going to maintain the oil revenue, maybe slowly increase. But I mean, there's no hope of decreasing the slope for any period of time, do you think? I mean,
In the short period of time, no, I think it's, right now we're trying to sustain it.
Yeah.
This level of spending. And I think that's where you look at the budget stabilization fund, you look at these other pools of money that now we're starting to bring in to cover anytime there's a decrease in the general fund revenue. The Strategic Investment Improvement Fund, they'll use that to offset some of those revenue reductions. And, but it's all to kind of sustain.
Right. Well, the governors, and I say that plural, the governors and the legislature are truly addicted to whatever their level of spending is. And I know that because I heard multiple times in the legislature, and I think we heard it at least once or twice on the House floor, that we're in a budget crunch. And this was, mid throughout the session. How is it possible we're in a budget crunch when we were looking at the proposal from the governor was a record budget? And we were looking at increasing that. How is that a budget crunch? It's so odd to me that Republicans will use phrases like that, a budget crunch, when what they mean is we can't increase it further from where it is now. That's the budget crunch. Well, that blows me away.
Throughout 2021, as being in charge of a state agency, we were looking at the downturn in the economy, and at that point, we were trying to figure out if we had to reduce our budget. If the governor was going to call for an allotment, how would we continue providing the valuable services that taxpayers want while we cut our funds? That's what we were anticipating, yet it never happened.
No.
Through 2021. So it was quite an interesting year.
Yeah, that was, for so many reasons, it was so bad to have that oil crash on top of COVID. But I was trying to look for a silver lining, and the only thing I could think of is that if it wasn't a V-shaped recovery with regard to oil, if it was more U-shaped and it could hold off on recovering until we were through with session, that we might actually decrease our spending. But no luck. So, Josh, let's come back the next segment and talk about how North Dakota compares to some of the other states. So
definitely.
We will do that. Very interesting, folks. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
When you can't find answers to your recurring health challenges, it can feel like your health and your future are being held hostage. The Wellness Way is a network of health restoration clinics that think and act differently to solve the health challenges others can't. Here, we disrupt the standard approach to care through a combination of testing, individual plans, and one-on-one guidance, putting your health and your future where they belong, in your own hands.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Prairie Patriot Firearms and Training is the region's most complete gun and training center. 5-lane indoor range, a gun shop, and a certified training facility. Firearms training courses are offered daily for new, intermediate, and advanced shooters. If you're not comfortable in a classroom setting, Prairie Patriot offers one-on-one private lessons, from basic self-defense training to concealed weapons testing, along with a full line of guns, ammunition, holsters, and concealment clothing. Prairie Patriot, 3930 Memorial Highway, prairiepatriot.com.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York-style pizza. We also feature gyros, with the region's only gyro meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go, we deliver for you.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
All right, welcome back to No Apologies on Back. This is your After Hours Oasis of Sanity. I'm your host, Rick Becker. Our special guest is State Auditor Josh Gallion. Again, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
So we were talking about the great, significant, booming increase in the North Dakota budget and how that fares in relation to per capita spending with our increased population and also with inflation. And we clearly, I don't remember the quote. I'm going to wildly paraphrase Reagan, I think, when he said something about, I could say that we're spending like drunken sailors, but we'd be giving drunken sailors a bad name. So, so Josh, now we're going to be kind of comparing, is North Dakota really that far off the rails? How do we compare to some of our neighbors?
So one of the things we look at in the auditor's office is we're trying to evaluate our operations. We're trying to make sure that we've got the appropriate number of resources, especially every time we go into legislative session. These are things that we kind of look at. And so we do look at some of our neighboring states. And we want to make sure that, you know, again, we're kind of in line with where we need to be. So we're always kind of looking at what our partners to the south of us, to the west of us are doing. And so I did bring another graph to kind of show some of these. And so I don't know if we want to put that up. But this is, I believe this is based on 2020 data. Mm-hmm. And as you can see, North Dakota, our population, about 762,000 with a budget of $7.3 billion. That's per year. So we did this on a per year basis.
Yeah.
But we do have a biennial budget. So that turned into per capita spending of about $9,600 per person. As you look to South Dakota, that has a population a little more than 100,000 more than us, their annual budget is $4.9 billion, or about $5,500 per person. Mm-hmm. South Dakota also has two auditors. They have a state auditor, but they also have a legislative auditor. And their audit shop is about, when you combine the two, very similar to the size of ours. So it's significantly less funding that they're looking at, but very similar number of resources. Montana, if you look at that, that's over 1 million people, but their budget's only $5.1 billion per year. So that per capita spending down to $4,700. So I just find it, as we look at a lot of these things and look at what our neighbors are doing, it is very interesting to see how North Dakota's budget has grown.
Oh yeah,
significantly over the last several years.
That's phenomenal. It's just phenomenal, and there's just no getting around that. That we have a super uber majority of Republicans in the legislature, a Republican in every single statewide office, and for our U.S. congressional delegation. And we're exploding the budget, and we don't have an excuse. When you show the map that you just did, when we're spending effectively more than double. For every man, woman, and child, we're spending more than double the money that Montana is, and nearly double the money of what South Dakota is, and substantially more than Wyoming is. What's the reason for that? It is nuts to me. And people will say, well, but we're doing so many good things, and we're better than South Dakota because even though they have no income tax, they're way worse in property tax. And there's so many crazy excuses. And I just want to share with you, there's from the Tax Foundation, they rank the business tax climate. So Governor Burgum, legislators talk about, we want to bring business in. We want to diversify the economy, and then the way they want to do it is with subsidies and special, corporate welfare type of schemes, when in fact all they would have to do is improve taxes, improve spending, decrease regulation, and that's what makes for a better business tax climate.
Would.
If you look at business tax climate, according to Tax Foundation, I'm gonna quiz you on air. Don't you? I know. What? Give me a state you think would be maybe in the top few.
For good or bad?
For good. Best business tax climate.
Business tax. South Dakota.
Number 2, South Dakota.
Okay.
Number 1, Wyoming.
I was going to go with Wyoming or South Dakota.
Yeah, so you get, that's 1 and 2. Best business tax climates. After that, Alaska. After that, Florida. After that, Montana. So each of our 3 neighbors are in the top 5. And North Dakota, we're number 16. So we have so much money coming in. It would allow us, if we were conservatives, to be number 1. Without a doubt, we could be number 1 for business tax climate, but we choose not to. We just spend all of it.
And if you look at even the level of spending that we've incurred over the last 10 years, really you're looking at the last 10-year window and our just significant increase in the amount of spending, we've also socked away billions into legacy funds and savings. And so we've really created an environment where we've grown our government to the size of our revenue, while also putting a lot away for a rainy day. And it just, you wonder if we were a little bit, a little more maybe disciplined in our spending, where could we have been?
Oh my gosh, I've pointed out before, Josh, that, and you basically showed it in your map, but back in 2009, we were spending essentially the same as South Dakota. And now we're spending $2.5 billion more every single year, not biennium, every single year than South Dakota. So and South Dakota has increased their spending, and they've increased it. They're in the top half of states as far as percentage of increase in spending. Despite that increase, we've added another $2.5 billion to theirs. That means we could have easily, completely gotten rid of the income tax. Or we could have gotten rid of completely the property tax. I mean, think of what that would have done
for the business environment.
Oh my gosh. Our economy, there would be not even California, well, they suck now. But I mean, when California was doing great and when New York was doing great, they wouldn't compare because no one would have ever seen, literally ever, in the history of the, we'll say at least since the Civil War of the United States, a state that would have boomed like North Dakota. We had that within our control and we let it slip by.
We could have created an environment that would have welcomed some of these large companies.
Yep.
We could have been competitive to bring in, I mean, could you imagine if we had like an Amazon distribution center running out of North Dakota, or a FedEx or UPS distribution center? I mean, those kind of operations, they could have thrived.
Yep. And technically it's still possible because our spending doesn't need to be where it's at. The problem is once you start spending, it's extremely hard if you look at human behavior, even of alleged conservatives, to keep things tampered down and be truly frugal and conservative when a bunch of money is coming in. That's proven time and time again. But I don't even know if there's ever an example of decreasing spending to that significant degree unless you're about to go bankrupt. I mean, it just doesn't happen. Nobody's going to be austere. They're just addicted to the spending. So I just don't know.
That's a policy decision I'll leave to you and your colleagues.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, you know what? Get me some more colleagues that actually believe in the platform of the Republican Party, and maybe we can accomplish that.
I will do the best I can to try to educate the citizens. I truly believe that's the auditor's office. Our role is to connect the people with the information about their government, and so that's why I appreciate opportunities like this to come on. And
that is a perfect segue to our next segment,
Yes.
because we're going to be talking about education and how you, the viewer, can be best informed about what's happening with your tax dollars in the state. So stick with us for our third and final segment with State Auditor Josh Gallion.
We're the ladies of Another View, bringing you a fresh view on local issues.
And different perspectives you won't get on the mainstream media. Watch us weekday afternoons at 4:30 Central Time on Beck News and at beck.news.
When you're buying windows, make sure you're comparing apples to apples. Hi, I'm Jesse with the Window Source. We only sell you the best windows and doors for the best price. Call the Window Source. Just because you pay less doesn't mean you get less.
If you don't know what's going on in education in this country, then you don't know what's going to happen in the future of this country. And it's important. I'm Dr. Duke.
And I'm Katie.
Watch the Dr. Duke Show weekdays at 4 p.m. Central Time on Beck TV.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York-style pizza. We also feature gyros, with the region's only gyro meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go. We deliver for you.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, inventor of MyPillow. Thanks to your support, you've helped make MyPillow become one of the fastest growing companies in America. Over the last 12 years, you've helped MyPillow create thousands of jobs right here in the USA.
When I got MyPillow, I'm asleep almost immediately. I stay asleep at night and I wake up more well-rested in the morning.
That's why I invented MyPillow. My patented fill adjusts to your exact individual needs and helps keep your neck supported and aligned. I'm interrupting this commercial right now. Retailers have canceled MyPillow, and to thank you for your support, I'm gonna pass the savings directly on to you. Go to MyPillow.com right now to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. For example, you can get my premium MyPillows, regularly $69.98, now just $29.98, the lowest price ever.
For the best night's sleep in the whole wide world, visit mypillow.com.
Welcome back to No Apologies on Beck, and we are here again with State Auditor Josh Gallion. Now, we've covered a couple of, I think, important and interesting things, but now you mentioned at the last segment the importance of the voter, of the North Dakota citizen being educated. Tell us more about that.
Correct. I think our constitutional republic requires an informed and engaged citizen.
Amen.
To survive. And so I feel that my primary responsibility as a state auditor, because our job is to go out and basically audit, verify that the information that government is putting out, the use of resources, is accurate, it's valid, it's being used for the intended purposes. And my role is to make sure that we inform the citizens of what they're doing. And so, yes, we take a lot of pride in that. If you've noticed in the last few years, we've really improved our communication. There's ways you can be informed by the auditor's office, whether it's through social media. I believe we put things out on our Facebook page, our LinkedIn, our website. We have more information available today in people's fingertips than ever before. And we've got plans for even more information to come out. It's the next year or so is going to be very exciting in the auditor's office.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Transparency and what you guys are doing in the past few years, the Treasurer's Office has improved their transparency and accessibility to the funds and things like that. You have with you what we call the Red Book. Tell our viewers about that.
So this is, when I go out and speak to people around the state and I start talking about some of this information, some of the things that always comes back is like, that's amazing. Where do you get this information? And so I've got a few visuals here I brought along, but this is actually published by the tax commissioner in his office, and they do a great job in compiling the state and local taxes. Mm-hmm. And this book contains a plethora of information about the tax collections here in North Dakota. If you want to know about the gaming taxes or the individual income taxes, there's property tax information, sales and use tax. Mm-hmm. All of this information is published, and right now we've kind of included the graphic here. It is an overview, and we did pull out North Dakota is listed as #1 for, in the country for state and local tax burden. So
we're #1.
We are #1.
Yes. Excellent. We're #1
for 2019, I believe.
For tax burden. That's fantastic.
But that is that. If folks want to go out to the tax commissioner's website and look that up, it is a very interesting read. To just be informed.
It is, and I use this Red Book frequently if I want to look for bits of information and to be informed on something, certainly if I want specific numbers. It's called the Red Book. Really, you take advantage that you have access to it. And if you go to nd.gov/tax, nd.gov/tax, you'll find it. Navigate around. It's under publications, and it's right there for you. You can, it's PDF printable, or you can just peruse it online very comfortably. That is a great resource.
Commissioner Rauschenberger and his team do an amazing job putting it together.
They do indeed. What else do you have for being informed?
I think the next one, we have another slide here, I believe. I think the next one is our annual comprehensive financial report. And this one is the compilation of the state's financial statements. And this here, I think our graphic, we have the statement of net position. And this is the one that shows where we are doing very well financially. I believe our total statement of net position for the for government activities is, let me get to that.
There's a distribution dashboard they just put up.
Yes, there's a lot of transparency, but the I believe the statement of net position shows that we are at about $21 billion.
Wow.
That is essentially all of our
That is
funds.
a lot of money.
That is a lot of money. But that is this interesting financial statement report. We actually audit this report, issue an opinion on it. Our team does an amazing job. But this information is out there on OMB's website. It's accessible to everybody.
On OMB? So would that be nd.omb? I mean nd.gov/OMB?
/ I believe OMB.
Okay. Very good. Now the guys pulled up this one, distribution dashboard. What does that mean?
On the Treasurer's website, so they show the revenue distributions throughout the state, and this is really a cool dashboard. It's searchable, sortable, and you can really dig in to find out where revenues are being distributed to counties, cities, school districts, townships. I think I was on the last show. I showed that our counties are sitting on, I believe it was about $800 million in cash. Our cities and school districts are also sitting on, they have large cash balances. I think the three of them combined are well over $2 billion.
Interesting.
But this website here at the Treasurer's Office is a great resource to find out the revenue coming in and how it's being distributed.
Yeah, very good. That is a tremendous amount of money that we're sitting on in the state. And, you would think that would indicate that we could look forward to a period of no property tax increases and no bonding issues because the money's there. But again, it just doesn't seem to work that way. Politicians, elected officials love to spend.
When we released the Montreal County audit, some of the feedback that I received when we demonstrated that they are sitting on almost $180 million in cash, some of the citizens contacted me and wanted to know, well, why did my property taxes go up? So that's a great question. You probably want to ask your county commissioners.
Yep, and you probably want to look for people who want to run for county commission who maybe would respect the taxpayers' money.
That's a local decision, but my job is to make sure we inform the citizens so that they can make informed and engaged decisions.
Yeah, very, very well said. And I think you also brought in, I think this is the craziest, this distribution, we're talking about distributions, this map or this algorithm. What the heck is this?
Wow, yeah, this is something, the first time you see it, you just kind of scratch your head. This is actually on Legislative Council's website. They make this available. This shows you the revenue coming in, which I believe that's the yellow boxes. The blue boxes, I think, are the funds.
Funds, yeah.
And then the square boxes, that's where they wind up, the distributions. And so you can actually follow all of the state revenue. The legacy fund is on there. Some of the highway tax distribution is on there. It's a very busy map, but there is a lot of information on here if you are interested to know where your tax dollars are going to wind up.
It looks too busy even to sort of comprehend, but I think this is one of those you have to look at the trees and not the forest. And if you just follow money along, it's actually pretty easy to follow that and kind of see how do these various subdivisions get their money, where does it come from?
Yes,
I think
it's very informative if individuals want to see how their tax dollars are being distributed. We provided this last graphic here just to kind of show that these are locations where you can go get information about your government here in North Dakota, where money is going, and how it's being spent.
Perfect. So there you go, folks. A lot of good resources, and Josh, I think this has been very helpful. Hopefully people will take that to heart, that you do have this power to be informed, and once you're informed, you have the power to do something about it. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
And
thank you.
If anybody has any questions, feel free to call my office.
Very good. All right. Thanks so much, Josh.
Thank you.
Folks, after this, we are going to be talking about one of Biden's executive orders, and then that will do it for the night. So stick around, and we'll be right back.
When you can't find answers to your recurring health challenges, it can feel like your health and your future are being held hostage. The Wellness Way is a network of health restoration clinics that think and act differently to solve the health challenges others can't. Here, we disrupt the standard approach to care through a combination of testing, individual plans, and one-on-one guidance, putting your health and your future where they belong, in your own hands.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Spas, etc. Yeah, yeah.
You've come to know and trust us for over 18 years with the largest selection and showroom in Western North Dakota for our beautiful Sundance spas. Plus, you can pick out your next home experience with our selection of pool tables, shuffleboards, and fun accessories.
Spas, etc. Your relaxation destination on Main and Bismarck.
40 years ago, Aero Service Team started with one truck and lots of hard work.
Times may have changed, but the hard work that we put in to get your lives back in order after fire, water, and disaster hasn't.
Over the years, we've seen so many families lose their belongings due to water and fire damage. Restoring homes back to the original state has made every hour of hard work well worth it.
Thank you for trusting our family with yours.
When disaster strikes, you only have to make one call. Aero Service Team does it all.
Every great pizza has a secret. At New York To Go, that secret lies in our perfectly recreated New York water, the key ingredient to making our signature New York style pizza. We also feature gyros with the region's only gyro meat spit, plus Nathan's hot dogs, calzones, and our delicious jumbo buffalo wings. Try a 14-inch or our special giant 20-inch pizza tonight. You gotta know how to fold them if you want to hold them. New York To Go, we deliver for you.
It's every American's right to bear arms. At Mandan Sporting Goods, we're here to help you support your Second Amendment rights, which reads, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Whether you're looking for a pistol for personal defense or collector gun, we have the staff to help you. We also have the area's largest inventory of ammo and reloading supplies.
Mandan Sporting Goods, the area's local gun and ammo specialists.
All right, welcome back to No Apologies on Beck, and we are going to hit our fifth and final segment for the night. I always love having Josh in, and I'm sure we'll have him back again sometime soon. For right now, let's talk about one of Biden's executive orders. You know, we are covering those, and some of them are more interesting than others, but it's always good to know what these executive orders say, because it gives us a little bit of insight into what this administration, President Biden, and more importantly those surrounding him, what they have in mind, how they view America, how they view the methods by which they can solve the perceived problems of America. What we have been seeing a lot of is so very much about race and justice, environmental justice and racial justice and whatever it might be. What we have tonight, let's go ahead and pull up that first one. We're going to be talking only about one executive order tonight, and this is an executive order on America's supply chains. And what it says here is the United States needs resilient, diverse, and secure supply chains to ensure our economic prosperity and national security. It goes on to say pandemics and other biological threats, cyber attacks, climate shocks, and extreme weather events, terrorist attacks, geopolitical and economic competition, and other conditions can reduce critical manufacturing capacity and the availability and integrity of critical goods, products, and services. So I think just that alone, we can have a very good discussion. It's important to realize that what we're talking about with these critical goods and the manufacturing and the supply chains, this is something that government itself is not producing. This is government trying to control. What we have is private industry producing, and government typically gets in the way. Furthermore, what we have is this administration is starting to do a pivot. And I think what we're looking at is, for the past year and throughout Biden's campaign and the initial 100 and so days of his presidency, a focus on the crisis of COVID. And through this and many other executive orders, we have seen the excuse for a grand expansion of government. Programs all over the place, money all over the place, easing into other areas and facets of our lives, easing into working with and controlling other non-governmental organizations. But this is a pivot, because what we have here now with these supply chains, with manufacturing, with the critical infrastructure, is we're starting to see, if you noticed in that list of events, it's not just COVID now. We are moving to any number of things. We mentioned the terrorist attacks and so forth. That would always be overriding. But climate shocks and extreme weather events. So what we're moving to is a shift, a pivot from COVID, as that's starting to temper down, to the resurgence, I guess, of interest, at least, of acknowledgement, awareness of this alleged climate crisis. So that becomes the new crisis by which the Biden administration and the leftists just keep pushing, keep on pushing. It has been because of COVID. Maybe in our minds we're thinking, well, okay, at least they're going to settle down once COVID is under control. But that's not the case. Their agenda is to promote government, to expand government. And they will move from one crisis to the next to the next. And that's what we're seeing here. This really, truly is, I think, a pivot. It's much more than what it sounds like. We've got, go ahead and with the next graphic. What they want to do is, let's see, resilient American supply chains. I think we missed a graphic there, but we'll go ahead with this one. Resilient American supply chains will also support small businesses, promote prosperity, advance the fight against climate change, and encourage economic growth in communities of color and economically distressed areas. Now, the way to do all of this, if you will, is to get government out of the way. If we want to make these things more resilient, what we have to do is decrease government intervention, decrease regulation, eliminate the picking winners and losers in government with corporate welfare and cronyism. There is essentially nothing that government should be doing outside of its legitimate functions. Government needs to uphold contract law, uphold property rights, prevent fraud, prevent theft, prevent predation, prevent terrorism. But getting involved in the business world to try and secure supply chains is not what the government should be doing, because what they do is they muck it up. They get involved, and what it turns into is all about decisions that are politically motivated and not economically motivated. That is the problem, and you can't change that. It is inherent when you have elected officials, when you have politicians making decisions. It is based on motivations that are inherently political, not on economic-based decisions. And Josh and I, we were taught, why did we see what happened in North Dakota, the dramatic increased spending? Because that was political, not economic. We see that everywhere and every place. We talked the other night on Biden's unemployment benefits. That was politically motivated, when economically we know that it is detrimental to a recovering economy. So it is never a economic decision when politicians are involved. Let's go to the next graphic. It says here the Secretary, where are we at here? Okay. Go to the next graphic. Perhaps I was screwed up, guys, but we'll move on to the next one here. The Secretary of Energy, in consultation with the heads of appropriate agencies, shall submit a report identifying risks in the supply chain for high-capacity batteries, including electric vehicle batteries, and policy recommendations to address these risks. So here's the thing. This really exemplifies what I was saying. We're looking at politically motivated policies and decisions that are not economically based. One of their big things that they're looking at is ensuring that we have these batteries, and yet these electric batteries for cars, 2% of our vehicles are electric. So that's going to be their main concern. If we run into a situation in which transportation is an issue, it's not going to be about batteries, it's going to be the supply chain for gas and oil, which, again, based on political motivations, they are trying to shut down. So there is absolutely nothing about this that government should be doing. Let's pop to the next graphic. It says here, they go into this whole thing about what these various secretaries, these cabinet members are going to be doing to protect the supply chain. And what you have here is each and every one of them are going to be in charge of doing something when in fact they shouldn't be doing anything. What we have is a fundamental problem with government where they are supposed to be protecting us with regard to contract law, property rights, various other rights, but not being involved in anything with regard to exactly where these guys are going. We don't want them controlling the economy because they're going to muck it up. Government has mucked it up each and every time since they've tried. That does it for us tonight, folks. Hang with us tomorrow night. We're going to have some interesting things going on in the state, in the nation. We'll be back tomorrow night.